The university is surrounded by lush greenery, which makes the environment very pleasant.
Participating in various student organizations has given me a wide variety of leadership skills.
The teaching methods, along with the learning culture, has made me well-equipped to top the board exam.
We can experience a variety of extracurricular activities throughout the semester.
English is used as the medium of instruction in most of our classes to help prepare students for work, both here and abroad.
As faculty of FEU, we engage in ongoing research, encourage scholarly discussions, and contribute in academic publications.
I was able to get a job right after graduation thanks to FEU's collaborations and industry partners.
The University Student Exchange Program gave me the opportunity to study in another country, to broaden my horizon, and to experience new cultures.
Connectivity is available in every part of the university, from the classrooms to the parks, canteens, and even the hallways.
The university is well equipped with specialized learning spaces such as nursing rooms, a mock hotel, and even a TV studio. This gives you a close to real-life experience.
I really believe that FEU can bring out the best in all of us.
Here in FEU, we stand for future-ready learning, for continued education, not just for our students, but also for ourselves. Because by learning more about our students, we learn how to be better educators. For educational innovations, because better, more responsive teaching techniques that put emphasis on learning instead of just passing, help our students be better prepared for the future, for turning knowledge into wisdom, not just accumulating it, so we can fulfill the potential of every student to be a future leader, and not just an achiever. We are FEU, and we stand for a future-ready generation. We stand for future-ready learning.
Welcome to Far Eastern University. Here are some reminders from the FEU Office of Education Technology. Join 15 minutes before the start of the event. Make sure to dress appropriately. Remember that this is a formal engagement in an online setting. Check your Wi-Fi connection before joining. Familiarize yourself with features you may need to use, such as mute, unmute, stop start video, and screen share. Mute your mic when not talking. Use the raise hand button if you want to speak. Find a quiet place without interruptions. Be aware that you are on camera. Avoid doing things that may cause distraction. Use appropriate equipment for the webinar. If you're using your mobile phone, please use a headset to reduce the noise that they pick in your location. Please avoid using a speaker. When asking a question, always state your name and your institute department first before throwing in your questions. Also, please make your voices clearly heard. If you are tuned into our social media accounts, please state your nickname, department, and your question. Do not spam the chat box. Always be courteous and do not engage in a chat with others while the webinar is ongoing. The organizers reserve their right to disengage anyone who will not follow the guidelines. We are now ready to start our event. Please stand by for the...
gathering us today. Give us the fortitude to conquer life's challenges so we can excel and be upright in everything that we do. Guide us to be united in diversity, that we may continue to serve and love one another. Amen.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this year's oath-taking and induction ceremony for FEU Student Leaders. I am Christine Cruz, your Master of Ceremony for today's event. Just some reminders, kindly mute your microphone, and if your internet connection is stable, we're encouraging you to please open your camera. To formally open our ceremony, let us now welcome our Assistant Vice President for Academic Services, Dr. Generoso B. Pamitan Jr., for the opening remarks.
Thank you, Christine. And to all the officers who will be inducted today, congratulations for having been appointed as officers of your respective student organizations. In 2020, a number of positions earned by election the year before were extended, while the remaining vacant positions were filled by appointment. This 2021, it is the first time, I think, in decades when all positions were vested by appointment. While the process of your appointment is legitimate, and we fully trust the wisdom and credibility of all selection committee members who vetted your appointment, the process by which you earned your positions should serve as challenge and motivation for you to manifest that you are more than capable. Always remember that you now officially represent your fellow students and Far Eastern University. So in stating pronouncements or even personal comments, before you say something, especially publicly and through social media, cautiously weigh the possible repercussions of your statements to you, to your fellow students, and institution you represent. This does not mean, again, this does not mean that you will not express your critical views and opinions about issues that matter. You should. You can speak up your mind, but take conscious effort to check if the statement or pronouncement is factual and tactful. In the performance of your duties, before you do something, think of the students and the institution you represent. Allows you to explore, experiment, and commit mistakes in the process. Mistakes are inevitable. What's important is you own up to your mistake and come out from it as a better person. In deciding on projects and programs to roll out and policies to implement, consider the students' general welfare and best interests, but also learn how to strike a balance. As pointed out, you do not only represent your fellow students, you also represent the institution. In deciding on the amount of money to fund your programs and operations, always exercise prudence. The organization's funds come from hard-earned money, so legislative positions is to serve. And I bet you already have seriously pondered on how to best serve your fellow students. Sa screening at interview pa lang, inilatag na ninyo ang inyong mga plataforma at inihayag ninyo ang inyong mga nais gawin sa ngalan ng paglilingkod. Never forget, though, that the reason why you are in FEU is to study and prepare yourselves into becoming professionals and entrepreneurs or innovators and worthy citizens of the country. Again, learn how to balance. Balance your priorities and tasks as students and as student leaders. Tenable that everyone may not be given the opportunity to lead and serve in student organizations. Leading and serving open a lot of opportunities. Hindi ko na iisa-isahin ang mga adbentahe ng pagiging isang student leader. Ngunit maiksing pagbabahagi lamang, no, bilang isang guro mula 1997, marami na akong nakatrabaho at nakasalamuha ng mga student leaders. At sa mga formal at kaswal na pagtitipon, na ibabahagi ng mga student leader alumni na ang kanilang leadership journey ang isa sa pinakamakabuluhan at pinakamasayang learning experience nila sa universidad. At nagamit nila ang natutunan sa kung anumang karera o tagumpay mayroon sila ngayon. Walang bayad na pinansyal ang pagiging isang student leader. Ngunit ang pagkatuto at pagkahubog mula sa karanasang maglingkod ang isang reward na maaari nating panghawakan at pagyamanin. So muli, my heartfelt congratulations to all of you, and we are excited to work and collaborate with you. All the best and keep safe.
Thank you, Sir Jean, for your heartwarming and motivational message. Truly, we should be reminded of what we should be responsible for as student leaders. For the next part of our program, allow me to introduce our keynote speaker and inducting officer. As you have seen in the poster, our keynote speaker and inducting officer is an academic, certified student affairs practitioner, MIL advocate, and a PhD student. He teaches core communication and research courses at the Department of Communication here in our very own university. He is currently a PhD student in media, film, and television at the University of Auckland, New Zealand. Prior to his study leave in January 2021, he was our Vice President for Academic Services. He steered his team in formulating diversity and inclusion policies and programs, such as the construction of all-gender toilets and multi-faith room and formulation of digital mentoring program on academic life cycle, which was awarded in 2020 as one of the top 100 most innovative programs conferred by the world's universities with real impact. He co-authored the FEU Diversity and Inclusion Policy and the FEU Social Media Guide. He was awarded as one of the top 10 best educators in the second Asian Universities Debate Championships and was invited as trainer of the Asian Debate Institute in Seoul, South Korea from 2016 to 2018. ADI is a two-week debate camp for university debaters in Northeast Asia. He is an alumnus of the 2019 International Visitor Leadership Program of the U.S. Department of State, which trained him on promoting media and information literacy through education. With research centers, non-government organizations, and learning institutions in Washington, D.C., New Hampshire, Michigan, New Mexico, and Los Angeles, California. Prior to this, he trained public school teachers on integrating media literacy into the curriculum under the auspices of the National Council for Children's Television, an adjunct agency of the Department of Education. Student leaders, guests, ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Associate Professor Joven R. Castro.
I'm just setting up my PowerPoint. Thank you very much for the generous introduction. Can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First and foremost, thank you very much for inviting me. I am deeply honored to be part of activating the button of your leadership journey. It's nice to be back at student development. 8 years ago, I was director of the student development. At that time, the former Office of Student Affairs was reformatted and three offices came to being. First one was student development, student discipline, and then community extension services and NSTP. And I would say that my stint at SDev 8 years ago was one of my happiest professional moments. I was very happy because I had the chance to work directly with student leaders. And that experience was invigorating, primarily because the enthusiasm of leaders was very contagious in a positive sense. You know, the word contagious today is something you would like to avoid. And that enabled me to do more for the university. So I was, like you, a former student leader. I was with the Oratorical and Debate Council during my college days. I was president of that organization, and there were several experiences that impelled me personally to stay in FEU as a faculty at that time when we were establishing the name of the organization as one of the forces to reckon with in the Philippine debate circle. To an extent, we felt certain forms of inferiority complex because we were competing then with top debaters in the country. And that was a motivation. If you think that you have to add value to the institution that you love, you have to stay, fight for it, and improve whatever can be improved. So more or less, that was a springboard for my leadership journey in FEU, which was nurtured at student development. And 8 years ago, I was happy to work with the team. So these were my teammates at that time. So Raihana, the culprit here, asked us to pose this way. I don't know how is it called, and that was the result. I looked like a hungry reptile. But at any rate, it was a very enjoyable moment. I could feel the happiness and excitement among all of us. We had specific roles to play, but we also recognized that we have to have agility and flexibility when the need arises or when the need arose. We had to pitch in, meaning kailangan may sumalo when there is more work assigned to a particular person. And we were bound by our mission to promote a dynamic and vibrant campus life. At that time, our challenge was how do we increase the student leaders' circle of influence? How do we add meaning to leadership? And we felt that revamping the team building at that time was necessary. So aside from the team building activities that involve group dynamics or group activities, we decided to immerse our students in community projects, which we hope would hone their sense of volunteerism. And this photo is one of those activities done by student leaders to express their concern for a particular community. And by the way they smile, we could sense to a certain extent that they were happy about the engagement. We thought that it would also increase or deepen their collaborative behavior. And luckily, I would say to an extent, it had an impact. And remembering some of the collaborative community projects that they did, these were some of the projects I noted, of course, in collaboration with the community partners and with the institutes and their departments. Now, why am I reminiscing my stint at SDev? I believe that participatory leadership is anchored on the past. We reflect on milestones and deliverables. In other words, we reflect on what went well and what still needs to be done. And today, I will use that experience as a springboard of my sharing about participatory leadership by creating a composite description of what have we done in FEU, what's the essence of participatory leadership that is more or less relevantly or uniquely FEU. I'm not saying it is a perfect setup, but I'm saying it's one that we can proud of and nurture. We can be proud of and nurture to advance participatory leadership in FEU. So towards this end, I'd like to share with you 4 areas, and to easily remember, I will say find, FIND. The first one is to find your advocacy. The second one is to intermediate. The third one is to network. And the fourth one is to design systems. To be a participatory leader, my recommendation really is to find your advocacy. And there are a lot of considerations. Number one is finding yourself. In which activity or advocacy will you be happy? Where are you good at? Where do you think can you contribute better? So sometimes there's always a question of, how do I find my passion? That's a very difficult question. There will be some of you who are lucky to see their advocacies at the very early stage of their leadership journey. Let's say they had past experiences. Sometimes these are usually unfortunate experiences that inspired them to use those unfortunate events as springboard to do better in helping other people who might experience the same. But many literatures would say try and explore as many advocacies, and then later on, while exploring, you'll find what impacts you the most. The reason why it's important to find your advocacy as an element of participatory leadership is this is where you will create a support system, because an advocacy cannot be done on your own. You cannot change the world on your own. Maybe in our own little ways we can. Let's say, for example, doing recycling activities at home. But if we want to create a more meaningful impact, we have to work with like-minded individuals who share the same advocacy and passion, form more consistent and aligned activities that the Mediapolis would take notice of. When we say it's a Mediapolis, we're not just talking about the social media. We're talking about the many other platforms that can contribute to mainstreaming your advocacy. So when you have a support system of like-minded individuals and you use social media, for example, to advance your causes, and that's picked up by the legacy media, meaning the mainstream TV, radio, film, and other platforms, and more NGOs join you, for example, then the advocacy creates a greater sphere of influence and it gets to have a better impact. But at the same time, it's important that your advocacy is also aligned with your organization and with Far Eastern University, your mother institution. Because when your organization and your institution support you, then you have resources, you again have a support system, and you can advance, therefore, further what you want to do. So I understand that after your induction today, you would start designing your projects, and it's crucial to look back. As a leader, which passion do you want to pursue? How do I want to help my community? What the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us is that there are several things that we need to do in our society beyond the self. And for more than a year of being on lockdown, it's a wake-up call for all of us that there is beyond the self when we talk about leadership. We have to think of other people. And when you can see on social media the hardships of others while you still have the comfort at home, you can still eat 3 times a day, your family members are safe. As leaders, we also ask ourselves, how else can I help other people in my own little ways? And then when all of you collectively work together, I think that it will create better impact. So at the end of the day, finding your advocacy is adding value in the noisy ecosystem. I say it's a noisy ecosystem because looking at the social media as the specimen, a lot of things are happening. In fact, sometimes you would not know what is the most important and relevant because everyone is publishing anything. Now, how do you situate yourself in that noisy environment? I don't think anyone in the world will say, I hate you helping other people. Compassion and love for other people is something that resonates with everyone, regardless of race, gender, and all other demographic and psychographic profiles. So that's the first one. After our induction today, where do you want to help? What is your advocacy given your limited resources? The second one is to intermediate. And this is a concept that has not been sufficiently explored because we either look at the point of view of the focal organization, the company, in this case FEU, and the students, the stakeholders. I would say, and I would propose that you look at yourselves as intermediaries. You are found or situated between FEU and the student population. While you are stakeholders inherently, when you have assumed a leadership position in FEU, you are now functioning as an intermediary, which means that you are brokers, facilitators, interveners, representatives, and allies. You are not only stakeholders, but you are intermediaries because you will eventually benefit from the training programs of FEU. And at the same time, you have to be the voice of the students. Now, why is an intermediary function important? Because it is our role, your role as student leaders, to always find meeting points, balancing the interests of your focal organization or FEU and balancing that with the interests of students. Why can't you just be the voice of the students? Because a one-sided advocacy will deplete the resources that could come from the other stakeholders. And in life, there are a lot of trade-offs. You can't be a leader when your focal point of view is like that of the horse, when, how do you call that? There is a blockage placed here just so you will only see one linear road. It cannot be. In a highly complex and networked society, you have to find a balance in the different interests as long as you remember your non-negotiable values. And that's what I'd like you as well to reflect on after our induction today. What are your values that in no circumstance should be sacrificed? So if you value fairness, if you value diversity and inclusion, when you are in a crossroad and you have to make a decision, when you are pro-life, for example, as a value, then that should guide you in your decision. So as you balance the different competing interests in your ecosystem, and you are at a crossroad of which path to tread, go back to those non-negotiable values. So to be an intermediary, a sense of responsibility is expected. So let's say, for example, when you articulate a position paper to a particular issue, campus-wide or even nationwide or globally, you always ask yourself, is this the voice of the organization? Or is this the voice of the officers appointed in that organization? Is this the voice of the student body, the student population of FEU? Now, we have to be very careful about saying it's the voice of the entire FEU student population. Because if you have not done a census, if you have not done a survey that really reflects majority, if not 75% of the population, then it's an generalization to claim that it's the voice of the student. So as an intermediary, because you have to balance these interests, you have to be very scientific and evidence-based in the way you articulate your insights and position paper. This is an unfinished business, I think, during my time as VPAS. I've challenged before our student leaders to learn simple random sampling in its strictest sense. Because even if your respondents would just be 1,200 or 386, if the respondents to your survey were scientifically, systematically selected, you can, to an extent, claim that it's the voice of the student body. So I hope you can find time to ask the help of, let's say, the math department or the psychology department or anyone who specializes in statistics to help you on that, so that when you release a position paper and say that if this is the voice of this properly sampled population, then the evidence is more scientifically produced. We have to, I think, pursue advocacies based on science. Pag napansin niyo yung nangyari sa atin ngayong COVID-19, maraming mga insights na hindi science-based. I think you might remember that, let's say, for example, gasoline was recommended to be a disinfectant, and we know that it cannot be used as a disinfectant for masks because when you use that, there will be other side effects or ill effects on our health. So, but if you are more science-based, that there is a reason why people have to physically distance themselves with other people, that there's a conspiracy theory that you have to debunk, that among those other issues in infodemic, then at least as intermediaries, you can help clarify these confusions and help in the information processing. So you have access to information from the university. How do you cascade that to the student body? In the same way, how do you negotiate with the university to listen to blind sides? So assuming there are some blind sides, hindi nakitang parte, how do you put that forward as an input to decision making, either for programs or policies? So remember, you are not just a stakeholder, you're also an intermediary. So just like this bridge in Bohol, it connects these two islands. The two islands would be the university and the student body. You are the bridge. And I hope you are the bridge that will be stable enough to provide that connection, not the bridge that will disconnect these two islands. Thirdly, network. We live in a highly networked society. And in this photo, you cannot ask these people to carry this house, what we popularly call as bayanihan, if you don't have a network of friends. Friends whom you will just feed with mungo and tilapia after the task. So you have to sustain or nurture a network. And in FEU and in your case, the networks can be both human and non-human assets. So you talk about the students as your first stakeholder, FEU as an institution, other FEU organizations, partner organizations from other schools, partner communities, the external public. So those who are not really enrolled in FEU but would always look at FEU as part of their conversation piece, your parents and benefactors, corporate sponsors for your activities, future employers. I would highlight future employers because whatever you do in social media now can be visited by your future employers. There's already a digital footprint that you can never or easily erase. So when you are so toxic, for example, in social media because you were so passionate about something to the point that you were already discourteous, for example, and when you apply for a job and then the employer does a background check, and they do background checks on your social media accounts, then it can be detrimental to your application. Of course, it's not the end all and be all, but all things being equal, when there are equally qualified applicants and the social media account of that applicant is more friendly or it's more respectful, then you will lose the chance for that job of your dream or for that dream job. And then, of course, there are regulatory bodies as part of the network. Now, because it's highly networked and it's strengthened by non-human assets such as the social media environment, I would again read down to the discussion on how do we behave in social media, not just for today's or for your term's activities, but even beyond. Whatever you do is an extension of who you are. There is already no delineation between your online and offline life. In fact, there is what you call as the on life. And having said that, now that you are also still on remote learning and your primary mode of communication will be social media, it's also your environment or your workplace. How do you use that platform to do your advocacy? How do you use that platform to connect with your corporate sponsors and with all the actors in your network. So it's important to understand that in this network, there will be an interplay of a lot of interests. There will be a lot of organizations who will contact you with specific agenda, both good, always good, I would say, but sometimes there could be some hideous agenda. And as a team, it's important to decipher very, very carefully if you should support an agendum forwarded by an external party. Remember, not the noisiest advocacy is the best advocacy. Not because it's on social media, then it should be the advocacy worth supporting. It does not. The world does not also revolve in social media. There are lives outside of it. There are lives within your immediate communities, and with your team, it's important to decide which advocacy should you support, even beyond the social media. But of course, I would say the takeoff point, the possible takeoff point of advocacies would be in social media, because that's where you can muster support from other people. But remember that participation is not the same as engagement. People will engage with you in social media, and whatever you post can be spread like wildfire. But is it enough? So there are questions against slacktivism. To be an armchair leader, just seated and just clicking the button. So it has been an arguable definition of discourse. Now, if there is that question on slacktivism, how do you make it more meaningful? How do you go to the field when there is a lockdown, when there are regulatory measures in place set by the Commission on Higher Education that you just cannot go out until you have been vaccinated? So it's a challenge for all of you, and I'm sure you will be able to formulate devices to navigate that circumstance. The last one is to design systems. I love this picture because I remember my childhood. We have to take turns in jumping over a friend or the luksong baka. I'm not so sure if you're still playing this because I grew up in the province, and at that time, there were no gadgets, a lot of gadgets, but you would find time to play with your friends, and there is a system. You have to line up. Hindi unahan, kundi nagtutulungan para matalunan siya. Siyempre kawawa yung nakayuko. Pero we know the consequence that if we don't perform well, meaning we did not jump over our friend properly, natumba siya or sumabit kami, talo ka. Papalit ka na sa kanya. Now, why am I sharing the need to design a system when there are a lot of interests in the network of an interplay of actors? Then you have to shield, quote unquote, yourselves. Shield by creating a system to make sure that your resources will be properly used. So that means that setting up systems like not responding to inquiries from students 24/7. Otherwise, you will drain yourselves physically and mentally. So in the university that I am in now, clearly when you email a help desk, a response would be, we will respond to you in 2 days from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you are already reminded that you can only follow up after 2 days and within that time frame, because they will only respond to that time frame. By creating those systems, we get to also create the impression that while we are democratized in terms of access to social media and in our online activities now that we are on lockdown, people would have lives outside of FEU and would have lives outside of social media. I understand that while studying, some of you may be doing some household chores. And how can you balance these things when you do not create a system? But by systems here, I'm also referring to systems on how you run your organizations. What safety net should you do to avoid legal risks or to manage legal risks? So for example, I don't know the responses to this. When someone posts something in your social media account, what vetting process have you done within your organization? Do you have a Viber or WhatsApp or Messenger group where you will post that poster and then everyone would have to agree, and that should three-fourths vote for it, or 50 or majority, 50% plus one should vote for it. If that vote is not achieved, what consensus process do you do? How do you tweak or improve the post? Have you factored in the different actors at play in your network? Because leadership is always situated. It works within a particular context with regulations. Otherwise, it's not democracy, it's anarchy. When you just want to do what you want to do, and you forget that there are people who can be affected by your actions. So it's important to create those systems. Now that you are online, second question, how do you guarantee audits of your finances? That these were properly used for intended activities? What is the timeline before you can again apply for the next withdrawal from your bank accounts? So, in other words, if you look back, why is it that before you can seal a deal with a sponsor, there is a prior approval from the university? There's a safety net there. Because once you have inked partnership with that sponsor, more or less, you are legally bound. And without FEU vetting it for you, you might enter a transaction that can be counterproductive or that might be unfair for you. Ang laki ng binigay mong mileage halimbawa, pero ito lang yung kayang ibigay ng sponsor. And you have a very big audience base. In fact, that is one of your selling points when you invite sponsors. But being your selling point, you have to be choosy. Does the sponsor, for example, support the well-being and the sense of being of your organization? Is it aligned with our values as a university? Because if we are promoting, for example, well-being programs, which types of sponsors do you think should we not include in that project? So those questions. Designing systems or the ability to design a system is a sign of leadership maturity, because you know the need for safety nets. You know that you have to design it so that all other stakeholders within your realm can be protected as well, and of course to manage your resources. In a nutshell, I say that participatory leadership in the FEU context is advocacy driven and anchored on the university's core values. It aspires to create a transformative and nurturing campus experience by intermediating a systematic collaboration among a network of stakeholders. It aims to increase participation of these stakeholders in meaningful programs. And I want to emphasize that in meaningful programs that are inclusive, diverse, and transformative. Thank you very much. And
thank you, Yes, sir?
Should I continue with
Right. Thank you, Professor Joven Castro, for that steering message that truly inspires all of us. Thank you for reminding us from going back to our core, in knowing our advocacy, in knowing our passion, to stand firm on our core values, to sustain and foster strong relationships with our network, and lastly, to understand the importance of making a system that both works for us and for the organization efficiently. Student leaders always keep in mind what participatory leadership truly means with the acronym FIND. So, Sir Joven, we will now proceed with the oath taking and induction ceremony.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Having been elected as, state your position. Of the, state the name of your organization.
of the FEU Center Student Organization.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
Do
I will
solemnly
abide
swear
that I will abide
I will abide
Constitution and bylaws of the organization
by the
by the
Constitution and
Constitution
bylaws of the organization
and the policies of the university.
and the
and the
policies of
policies
the
of the
university.
university.
I will commit to uphold
I will commit to
to
uphold
uphold
the values of fortitude, excellence, and uprightness.
the
The
values of
values of
fortitude,
fortitude,
excellence,
excellence,
and
and
uprightness.
I will faithfully and justly exercise
I
I
will
will
faithfully
faithfully and justly exercise
the powers of my office
the powers
the
of
powers of
my
my office
office
and perform my functions
and
and
perform my
perform my
functions
functions
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
to the
to the
best
best
of
of
my
my
knowledge
knowledge
and
and
ability.
ability.
So help me God.
So
Help
help
me
me
God.
God.
Congratulations, everyone, and welcome to the FEU Student Leadership Journey.
Thank you, Sir Joven. And once again, congratulations, FEU student leaders, for the school year 2021 to 2022. So now can you mute your audio now so we can proceed to the next part of our program. To express our gratitude for having Sir Joven with us today, let us all welcome the Director of Student Development, Ms. Gracia Aileen Tag, for the awarding of the Certificate of Appreciation.
Thank you very much, Christine. Far Eastern University, Student Development, Academic Services, Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to Associate Professor Joven R. Castro for his valuable contribution as keynote speaker and inducting officer during the induction and oath-taking ceremony for FEU student leaders with the theme Participatory Leadership, Daring to Lead. Given this 5th day of August 2021 at Far Eastern University, Manila, signed, Rachel Intag, Director, Student Development, Dr. Generoso B. Pamitan Jr., Assistant Vice President for Academic Services. Thank you very much, Sir Joven.
The token of appreciation will be delivered to your house, Sir Joven. And once again, thank you very much, sir. At this point, let us now welcome the President of the Far Eastern University Central Student Organization for school year 2021 to 2022, Mr. Arnold Christoph Joshua Luzon.
To our keynote speaker, Sir Joven Castro, to our Assistant Vice President for Academic Services, Sir Jean Panitan Jr., to our Student Development Director, Ma'am Gracia Lintag, to all SDEV staff and my fellow student leaders, a pleasant morning to all of you. To be a student leader in a time when our country's education system is plagued by a lot of challenges with the shift to online setup, when the vulnerability of our health system is further exposed, and when the political tension is high due to countless human rights violations and abuse of power. All of these are indeed a battle that not all are willing to fight for, or not all may have the resources to pursue it even if they want to. In these trying times, not all leaders are equipped to join the force of pushing forth a more equitable and inclusive learning space. Or we can also say that only a few have mastered enough courage to take charge in leading the student body. That is why I would like to first thank everyone who responded to the call of serving our fellow students in our community. But more than that, I would also like to remind everyone that aside from our competencies, our experience, and our credentials, it is our privileges that brought us here in this position and this platform. Kaya naman hinihimok ko ang bawat leader estudyante ng akademikong taon na ito na samantalahin ang pribilehiyong ito upang patuloy na isulong ang mga karapatan hindi lamang ng bawat estudyante, kung hindi ng bawat miyembro ng FEU community at ng bawat mamamayang Pilipino. Atin din pong tandaan na ang progreso ay di kakayanin ng iisang konseho lamang o kahit ang buong lupon ng mga leader estudyante. Ang progreso ay mas mabilis at mas mabisang makakamtan kung kaakbay natin ang bawat estudyanteng tamaraw at kaakibat ang mga tagapangasiwa ng pamantasan. Muli, sama-sama po nating ipanalo ang pamantasan ng malayang silanganan. At sa darating na Mayo 2022, makiisa po tayo sa pagkamit ng malayang perlas ng silanganan gamit ang matalinong pagboto. I am Arnold Christoph Joshua Luzon, your 2021-2022 FEU Central Student Organization President. All yours in Tamaraw spirit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toph, for inspiring us even more to contribute and to continue our work for the FEU community. And we thank everyone for choosing courage over comfort. We will know failures and be brave despite all the challenges. Once again, thank you, Toph, and to share with us the plans and directions of student development for this school year. Let us once again welcome the Director of Student Development, Ms. Rachel Aileen Pag.
Good morning. Thank you, Christine, for ushering in. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay, so good morning. We're ushering to the afternoon already. Anyway, so indeed, this is a very beautiful event of gathering. I'm looking at, we have 338 participants, and it is a privilege that I will present the Trust of Student Development. For school year 2021-2022. Over the years, student development has been committed in providing vibrant programs and meaningful learning opportunities through various student organizations activities, local and international partnership, collaborative projects with our university departments, and of course, student-initiated activities or student development initiative activities. We are honored. I am personally honored and grateful for the leadership of Mr. Joven Castro, our keynote speaker, and our former SF Director, Ms. Marie Leonor de los Santos, including student development leaders before them, Dr. Adelaida Fronda and Dr. Marcon Espino. All of them have shared time, expertise, support, guidance, and work with all our student leaders in ensuring that we are true to the purpose of this office. Student development, we develop students. These vibrant programs and meaningful learning opportunities are crafted to enrich lives of our students through interesting, engaging, and fun-filled activities. Empower them by developing their competencies, discover and hone their leadership skills, and enhance their life skills. And enlighten them. Usher them to moments of reflection on life's meaning as early adults, moments of introspection on individuals' discovery of strengths and limitation, and moments of appreciation of oneself and of others. All of these are geared towards making the FEU journey memorable and insightful. Student development has always regarded student leaders as partners in developing, conducting, and implementing activities that respond to the needs of the student and that give life and meaning to the FEU journey. By experience, the role of SDEV is somewhat like a parent who give birth to the new breed of student leaders. These are you. This includes all of you right now. Or similar to a teacher who facilitates the learning of a student leader in the conduct of his role or her role. Or maybe like a friend who is there to help student leaders achieve their goals and stick with them in times of difficulties and confusion, because we know we are not perfect individuals. In principle, SDEV is committed to empower and guide the student leaders in the role of providing vibrant and meaningful activities. SDEV, through the own initiated activities and in collaboration with institutes and other university offices, work together with all of you, with all the student organization, in enriching the FEU journey of student community. So this connection expands and involves the institutes, the Academic Affairs Office, Academic Development Office, Academic Services, and even widens its scope in terms of partnership with local organizations and international institutions on board. Hence, when we hear the word student development, the first thing that comes to our mind is student leader. With this premise, the question is SDEV intended only for student leaders? To answer this question, let me present the Trust of Student Development for school year 2021-2022. I know you're familiar with PITP for those who have experienced PITP in the university, and while for others who have not, let me introduce PITP. PITP is the vocabulary or is included in the vocabulary of a Tamaraw student leader. But what does PIT mean? It means planning, integration, and team building program. But allow me to use PITP in presenting the Trust of Student Leaders or Student Development for this school year. PITP, by tradition, is an event that follows the induction and oath-taking ceremony. But this presentation allow me to give an additional meaning to a vocabulary for PITP. Let's start with the first letter, P, which is purpose. The purpose of SDEV will still continue. That is to develop and mentor student leaders. It will remain as what Fluffy in the movie My Amanda, ikaw lang ang constant sa buhay ko. So totoo yun. Student leaders will always be something that is constant in the life of student development. But please, let's just another layer. Our students. So let me introduce this additional layer. The students. These are your peers, your collaborators, your constituents, your webinar participants, your batchmates, your friends. But let's go deeper. Who are the students? They belong to the Gen Z, which share the same characteristics as you have. They are in their late adolescence and early adulthood stage. As Eric Erickson mentioned, they would go to different developmental tasks. And in every task and in this stage, crises and challenges will be experienced that they have to adapt and cope up with. Those are preparing for their future careers in the corporate world or in graduate studies or maybe in a government position. And these are people that are building and maintaining their relationship not only with others, but with themselves. And lastly, these are the people that are finding their purpose in life. This is the beginning of asking the question, para kanino, para saan, para ano, o para sino man tayo bumabangon. Ito na ang simula nyo. So as I mentioned earlier, that we will continue to mentor, support, guide student leaders, we are adding another layer, the potential leaders. But who are these potential leaders? If you will allow me, this is actually the total student population of FEU. If we have 18,000 enrollees this first sem, then we have 18,000 potential leaders. This is based on two premises. All of us, as mentioned by AV Pass earlier, all of us are potential leaders. Some of us applied for leadership position and were appointed. This is your case. Some of us were chosen to lead a community or a committee. Some of us were waiting for the right moment or for a right organization to be part of and emerge as a leader, while some of us were shy or afraid to try to get out of their comfort zone and create space. But all of us have leadership potentials. Leadership positions are both a confirmation of your potentials and an opportunity to prove the existence of these potentials and to influence others to also take spaces. Therefore, the potentials are inside all of us. As SF considers that every Tamaraw is a potential leader, this is the second premise. It is then a commitment of SDEV, together with your help, to develop these potentials with the hope that they will be leaders of their own lives. That when they go outside FEU, when they go to the real world, so to speak, they are ready to face the challenges and changes that will come their way. That they will make choices and will be responsible for their decision. That they will recognize that they are not perfect, but they always have the passion to grow. That they are willing to help, but never afraid to ask help. That they fulfill their purpose in life and that they lead by example. And this is the additional purpose that ESTA will be embracing together with all of you beginning this school year. This might be a continuation. This might be a refueling of what SF has been doing all those years. So in order to develop all students, be it student leaders or potential leaders, there must be something that ESDA will anchor on. For this year, aside from the UN Sustainable Development Goals, ESDA shall use Arthur Chickering's 7 sectors theory. So let me introduce Arthur Chickering to you. He is a student development practitioner. And he introduced a series of developmental tasks, such as developing confidence, managing emotion, moving through autonomy, developing mature interpersonal relationship, establishing identity, developing purpose, and developing integrity. One good thing about this framework that it looks at development as something fluid. So hindi siya hierarchical like the likes of Maslow hierarchy of needs. So when we speak of fluid, meaning no two individual will work through the same vector at the same time. Maybe one of you would be pursuing development confidence, while another is establishing his or her identity. So what is the beauty of this? It gives SF the opportunity to be inclusive and to be more responsive in its program. This framework gives SF on what projects to give more emphasis to or to target more than one vector simultaneously as a result of course, working and collaborating with you, student dialogue, focus group discussion, and training needs assessment. Also, this framework gives SF on what projects that would give meaning, as what Sir Joven mentioned, to one's FEU journey. So I put here the FEU, which the campus which you miss, and of course the FEU learning journey. So this framework serves as our guide in providing activities that will enrich one's journey in FEU as represented by the campus and will also give meaning to your responses to the FEU learning journeys back in place. Now let's go to the second letter, I for innovation. This pandemic has brought so many changes, from physical closeness to physical distancing, from face-to-face classes to online classes, from seminars to webinars, and from seeing full faces to faces with masks and shields. But let's look at the other side of the coin. I am a positive psychologist. There's always something to look forward to be grateful for. So therefore, the pandemic has ushered us to new discoveries of ourselves and of others. A deep appreciation of what we have and an acceptance of things that we have to work on. The pandemic has taught us to be more creative in developing programs that will entice the students, resourceful in using different kinds of platforms, Zoom, Discord, Teams, Facebook, to be resilient in keeping balance between work and study and home, and to be flexible in adapting to changes. This year, SDEV continues to innovate and creates programs aiming at the totality of the person. So therefore, another choice is to look at the holistic development of the individual using the well-being wheel or well-being index. We shall remain steadfast in coming up with programs that respond to every aspect of the individual because we look at the student not fragments, but as a whole person. And we hope to contribute to the wholeness or to the completeness of one's being. For example, that may usher you to the financial wellness. We usually hear the word financial wellness for those who are already working or for those who are about to retire, how to use their retirement money. But today, the current mode of financial wellness expert is to teach financial wellness as early as kindergarten. When you look at the FEU learning journey bucket list, part of it is about budget, no, managing your budget. So therefore, we can look at every aspect of the individual and explore on how we can help them. Oh, let's take another one, environmental. We will introduce the Green is the New Gold program, which is about environmental wellness. We thank the proponents of the first environmental wellness project, which is CLAYGO, Clean as You Go. And we shall continue with that. That's why for tomorrow, you have a webinar about waste management and waste segregation through the Bokashi method. But aside from facilitating the well-being of the person or of the student, we are committed to improve our processes and procedure with your help and creativity. One example is the management of systems and training that usually happen at the start of the school year. It serves as an orientation to guide you as you function as officers. This year, we aim at providing most at the start of every SEM. So we have one this first SEM and another one in the second SEM. Or maybe twice a school year, only with the purpose to guide you and help you along your journey as appointed student leaders. The third letter is T, talent development. SDEV shall continue to send student leaders to conferences, training programs, and exchange programs organized by local organizations and international agencies, our partner universities, and also our partner companies. But let's go deeper. What is the purpose of that? The purpose of engaging you into all these off-campus activities is to provide you opportunities for new knowledge. There's always something to learn, to relearn, and to unlearn. Engaging into off-campus or activities will help you to learn something new, to relearn something that you have forgotten but is essential, or to unlearn something that you have learned but no longer relevant. It ushers you to a new experience. It is not always the same speaker, not the same participants, and even not the same you. You are different when you were first year. Different priorities, different characteristics, different needs when you engage into off-campus activity. And now that you're fourth year, you might have a different perspective. So there's always a new experience when you engage into off-campus events. Also, this is a new connection, new friends, new mentors, new person you want to emulate, or new techniques on how to present, or new lectures that you can share. And lastly, it's a chance to discover your advocacy. Your engagement is an opportunity to discover, to ignite something that this is something that I want to pursue. This is my passion. This is my purpose. And especially, this is your commitment to share what you have learned to your fellow students. And lastly, P is about partnership. SF continues to collaborate, to work with, and to learn from 50 active student organizations, 7 institutes, 6 academic affairs offices, 7 academic development units, 7 academic services units, Also, we include non-academic units such as health services, HR, finance, budget, accounting, campus ministry. No? So all of those things. And of course, our FEU schools. FEU Roosevelt, FEU Cavite, FEU Alabang, FEU Tech, and FEU Diliman. So for example, let me share to you, the TAC Tamaraw, where FEUXO is the lead organization, is a collaborative project with academic services and SDEF. The Virtual English and Culture Camp is a collaborative project with International Relations Office and student leaders and volunteers and facilitators from your organizations. And today's induction and oath-taking ceremony is a collaborative project with ISOC. So this is a proof that this year we continue to collaborate with all of you. In the pipeline is a collaborative project with the Office of Student Discipline, the Gender and Development Office, and we hope we get the support of FEU SAGA. So in summary, the trust of student development comes from this. SDEV is thirsty, nauuhaw, the thirst to continue the legacy of previous student development directors that we are grateful we are honored, and to improve the programs and processes for the best interest of our students, and to develop students in all its facets, the wholeness of the individual. This thirst propels us to fill the vessels of our students, the vessels of all of you, and to provide directions on how we're going to fill these vessels with meaningful experiences. That is why I am laying the trust of student development as our guide, ensuring that we're true to our purpose in developing the students to the best versions of ourselves or of themselves. But we can only do that. We're only 5, Sir Glenn, Ma'am Jonah, 6, including me, Ma'am Rai, Sir Nico, and Ma'am Marge. But with your help, with all of you who are present here, if we work hand in hand, we can do it. The induction and the oath-taking ceremony symbolizes our commitment to our purpose and to our dedication to help others in the process of helping them and helping ourselves. As AVP Jean Pamitan mentioned earlier, your leadership journey is something that you can carry with you for the rest of your life, but not all have that experience. Therefore, SDEF, trust all of you that you are one with us, that together as one brave Tamaraw, we can help each other in facilitating the FEU journey of every Tamaraw, truly enriching. If we try, if we always reflect on milestones and deliverables, as Sir Joven mentioned earlier, and if we are successful, then we give meaning to the FEU hymn, "In Thy happy halls, our young hearts saw the light." Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you, Ma'am Grisha. We are all excited and thrilled with the plans and projects of the student development. And we just want to say, as early as now, that we thank you for your guidance and for nurturing us. To formally close our program for today, let us all welcome Mr. Glenn C. Concepcion for his closing remarks.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay. So to our Assistant Vice President for Academic Services, Dr. Generoso Pamitan Jr., to our keynote speaker and inducting officer, Associate Professor Joven Castro, to our Student Development Director, Ms. Grisha Lintag, to our dear student leaders, and to everyone attending our induction and oath-taking ceremony, good morning. First, I want to congratulate all our newly appointed student leaders. Thank you for heeding the call for service, for rising to the challenge, and for pursuing your passion to serve and to lead. SDEV is delighted to know that we are still surrounded by a great number of dedicated and high-spirited FEU student leaders during these trying times. Last year, SDEV dared the previous student leaders to develop resilience, stay relevant, foster wellness, find purpose, and be brave amidst the adversities. It was a tall order, but we were happy with the outcome. Our FEU student leaders certainly did step up to the challenge. The pandemic changed a lot in the ways we live, but it did not waver the desire to lead and the passion to serve. They successfully attuned themselves, and we were able to pull off projects and activities that are timely and appropriate. One thing that we have learned from the pandemic is that difficult times create opportunities, and that difficult times can also bring out the best in people. The pandemic taught us to see beyond the adversities and hardships and look profoundly on our goodness and strengths. It instilled in us the need to be compassionate and kind hearted and to look after the welfare of others. Further, it motivated us to innovate, to remain optimistic, and to see the many possibilities through and after the pandemic. Moving forward, as you embrace a new journey as student leaders, there are several things that we want you to bring on board, knowing that daunting trials of the pandemic and the new normal are still there, and they demand for reliable and responsible leadership. One is to be the voice that creates the sense of hope, positivity, and inspiration for others. As student leaders, you are in the front line, directly interacting with the students. You can capitalize on this to bring positivity and inspiration to them. You can engage students to meaningful conversations and encourage their active participation in worthwhile activities. Second is to intelligently choose your battles. As student leaders, you are inclined to be politically aware and involved. You are keen at making a stand for what is just and true. To battle for the right is one of your cores as a Tamaraw. But the challenge is for you, as student leaders, to make a stand without being divisive and offensive, and to be models of good governance. Further, you need not engage in unimportant or overly difficult arguments. Save your strength instead for those that are of greater importance or to the things that really matter. Third is to be more reflective and discerning. In an article written by Frank Bucaro, a creator and innovator of strategic values-based leadership development programs, the intrinsic role that discernment plays in decision making is highlighted. According to him, discernment is based on circumstances, options, meaning, implications, and motivation. One of its key elements is not to let one's emotion dictate one's judgment or behavior. He reiterated that who, what, and where are important points of knowledge, but the why is the focal point of discernment. It is a learned skill that focuses on the process of reflection on the foundation of being a values based and principle driven leader. Fourth is to be participative. Using the words of Joanna Concha, we hope to inspire you to be proactive leaders who volunteer to respond and act on issues that confront you and the society in general, to participate and to carry out your roles as Filipino citizens, and to dare to lead the community towards nation building. And lastly, we want you to take care of yourselves, to take care of your mind and body. It should always be your priority. Striking a balance in everything you do entails looking after your physical and mental health while keeping busy with the demands of your work as a student and as a student leader. Take time for yourself. It makes a lot of difference. Again, thank you, congratulations, and good luck to your leadership journey in FEU. Maraming maraming salamat.
Thank you, Sir Glenn, for your steering message. I agree on that the most difficult experiences, these challenges that we're all facing, such as this pandemic, shapes our character and develop who we are as a person and as a student leader. That when faced with a big hurdle in life, you will be able to handle and conquer these difficulties that are anchored to our core values. Once again, congratulations, everyone, and best wishes to all of your plans and projects. As Sir Glenn mentioned, do not forget to take care of yourself. At this period, we want to save the moment and capture all of the beautiful and handsome faces of the change makers, our student leaders. With this, we're all inviting everyone to please turn on your cameras for our photo opportunity.
All right, guys, kindly open your cameras now. And there are about 8 pages on the on my screen app, my Zoom app right now. So I'll be taking 8 pictures. Okay, and it's random. So please keep those smiles posted for a few seconds. Thank you. Right, next page. I'm on my 3rd page. For those who haven't opened their cameras yet, please open them. On the 4th right now. Fifth page. Keep on smiling, guys. Hi lang po. I'm on my last 2 pages, so please keep those one posted. All right.
All right. Thank you, Miss Kat. All right, so at this moment, please stand for our FEU hymn. Before we leave the meeting, please fill out the evaluation form. This will be the same form you will be filling out from today's event to August 7. This has been Christine Cruz, your host, leaving you a message to always fight with faith. Thank you for joining us today. For our FB Live viewers also, thank you for tuning in. And once again, congratulations to all of our student leaders. Congratulations. Thank you so much, and God bless us all.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're off the air. Thanks.
Thank you, Sir
Congrats.
Ian of MCO.
Thanks, Ian.
EdTech family, EdTech team. Thank you
Welcome,
very much, Ma'am
Pose.
Cathy.
Welcome.
Congratulations and thank you for making this happen.
Welcome po.
Sir.
Congrats, everyone. Congrats, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much po.
Future leaders of the country now leads FEU.
Yes.
Congrats.
Ma'am Cathy, Sir Ian, the rest of the EdTech team, thank you.
Welcome pa. Anytime. Salamat po.
Thank you so much. Thank you po.
Thank you po. Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Thank you po.